Caden Richards is a happy teenager with a perfect life until everything suddenly falls apart. It's a full moon night when a bully decides to provoke him during a football match. His reaction is totally unproportional and everyone is shocked. From that day on, he starts to have headaches and weird nightmares where his mother is attacked by monsters.
Oh, my head hurts so bad.
Things also go downhill at school, with his grades declining sharply, while teachers complain of his unusual attitude. One night, he tells his girlfriend Lisa that he might be losing his mind. The headaches are getting worse every day, and sometimes he can't control his own actions. Sadly, Lisa is too self-absorbed to take it seriously and immediately concludes that this is all about her. Next year, they go to college, so he must be stressed out by the idea of such a distance between them. That's also a perfect excuse for them to go all the way tonight, so Lisa makes a move, but so does the full moon. While his hands grow into claws, a pair of fangs also come to say hi. Lisa is horrified at the transformation and runs away. Chasing her like a beast, Caden is a full-blown werewolf now. Waking up on the couch, he can't even pretend it was all a bad dream because there's a blood trail which says otherwise. So he follows that and has a terrible surprise. His parents have been attacked. A police car is pulling over right outside and Lisa comes out of it. She tells the officer they must go check because Caden is a monster. TV news. School counselor Cecilia Lawrence says he had disturbing dreams, wrote the book Danger of Boys. Caden has no choice but to run. A manhunt is organized, but he can smell the cops coming from miles away. All the books he could find in the occult section say the only cure is to take his own life. But he has no reason to believe books and legends because he already knows for the most part that it's nonsense. For example, the transformation is not only during a full moon. It does get much worse then, but the threat is always there. He lives in constant fear of hurting people. Dining alone one night, he sees Lisa on TV. The reporter mentions that Caden was adopted and Lisa says she never knew. It turns out that's also news to Caden. He's still processing that information as he leaves the diner, and then a young woman screams for help. She's being attacked by two drunk guys.
Leave her alone!
They see no reason to obey a not particularly strong teenage boy who's telling them to stop. So he lets the wolf out and the situation changes completely. Caden says he's trying to put his condition to good use, maybe, but he also admits to enjoying it in a troubling way. He gives up on finding any kind of answers until he meets Wild Joe in a bar. Showing his own fangs to prove that he knows what's going on, Joe seems to have a lot to teach. He says there are other werewolves out there, but not many are purebred like them. Most were just bitten into the gang or had just one parent in the pack. Caden and Joe are the real deal.
How do you think I got so pretty?
The boy is eager to learn more, but Wild Joe refuses to take him to his own pack. He says they are secretive and vicious, so all he can do is to point him in the right direction. According to the dart he throws before vanishing, that could be the direction of a little town called Lupine Ridge. Ignoring all those red flags, Caden rides all the way there. As he enters the only bar in town, some of the customers pick up the scent of an outsider. The bartender, Gail, is amused to see a tourist because the town never has any, being all the way up on the hills like that, almost like hiding from the world. He asks Gail about any odd jobs he could do, but she can't help much with that, or anything, since she seems to drink more than she pours. A big guy at a table sends a woman his way, politely rejecting her advances.
That means you'll never be lonely.
Caden prefers the company of the gorgeous girl behind the counter. Her name is Angel, and she seems a bit uneasy to talk to him while the big guy is watching. Then this random guy named Deke comes to stir up some trouble. Pointing at the blonde, he says Caden was messing with his girl. Angel tells him to cut it out, but now the whole pack is gathering, so Caden agrees to leave. He hides in the bushes to stalk the group until he has a chance to get Deke alone. He confronts him, not at all impressed by the Fang show. Scared, Deke runs away like a little puppy. Before he leaves, Caden meets an older guy who was at the bar before. His name is John Tollerman and he wants to hire him. So Caden starts working at the Tollerman farm. He meets John's wife Clara and life seems reasonably peaceful with them. No one asks too many questions and that suits him fine. The only issue is with the animals. They can spot a predator much better than we do. Anyway, all that peace goes up in flames when that big guy shows up at the barn uninvited. His name is Connor, and he's obviously the one who calls the shots in this town. Introducing Caden as his nephew from out west, John asks what this is about.
What can we do for you, Connor?
Connor says one of his boys got jumped by him the other night. John defends his fake nephew. Those boys were ganging up on him first. It was only fair to make it a one-on-one. Connor then points out that John never spoke a word to this kid at the bar. That's no way to treat a relative. John says he didn't recognize the boy after so many years apart. No one is buying that story, of course. The next day, one of their sheep seems to have met a dramatic end. Caden beats himself up over that, assuming his wolf self was the perp. But John comes along and explains it happens a lot. Closely watching the boy's reaction, he says this place is full of wolves and they need to eat too. At night, Caden is intercepted on his way to Angel's. A man named Carter Willis tells him to leave town at once before he gets them all killed. This place is ruled by Connor and he's a ruthless tyrant. Carter's own brother was once kicked out forever, and not even the county police came by to keep things in check. He starts saying something about Caden's true identity, but then they see Connor watching them with a menacing look. Carter rushes into his car and drives off in terror. At the bar, Caden asks Angel how come Gail still has that job when she's so obviously drinking all the beer herself. It turns out they are sisters and Angel owns the place. She says she came into the money when her parents died. Embarrassed by the grim topic, he tries to mend it by saying he also lost both his parents. They wrap up that odd talk with a toast to orphans. In the woods nearby, Connor is waiting. His minions arrive in a truck and they have something for him. It's Carter, who's now being encouraged to share whatever he may be hiding. Rumor has it that the newcomer might be from a particular old lineage, which would explain how John took him in so quickly. The thing is, Connor does not like to be kept in the dark about stuff like that. What if he harms the kid, as he totally intends to, and then he gets frowned upon or something? It could be awkward. Carter convinces them he doesn't know much, but they still need to make sure he won't spill any more beans. So they do what any reasonable group of friends would do. They turn into werewolves to hunt him down through the woods. But that kind of fun doesn't go down too quietly, especially when your senses are heightened by wolf genes. Caden decides to check it out and gets surprised to see Angel lurking in the dark as well. She says someone has been hurt and she wants to find out who it was. She lets him come with her with the promise of keeping quiet. So they hide to watch the others, who are now having an absolutely barbaric celebration. Caden asks what they're eating and Angel says his name was Carter. She also says that yes, they are all wolves, including Caden and herself. When they get back to the farm, the Tollermans are watching some kind of TV special about the unsolved murder of Caden's parents. With a big hug, Clara says she's so sorry about what happened. John says it's time for them to share a few things. He tells him that the Eastern Coast wolves are one of the oldest lines still around. There aren't many of them left now because many have married regular people, thinning the breed. That's what happened to John himself, since his wife is not part of the pack. She says she just likes chest hair. Good for you, Clara. So most of the wolves nowadays have a diluted and weakened power. One of the very few exceptions is Connor, who's now the last purebred in miles. Another one was John's beautiful niece, Lucinda, who died 17 years ago. Completely obsessed with her, Connor refused to accept rejection and took her by force. She got pregnant and John kept her hidden until the baby was due. To protect the child from his own father, Lucinda gave him up for adoption and then committed suicide. Caden is absolutely shocked at the implications. John confirms his fears. Connor is his father, and since the loss of Lucinda, he became more insane, biting people up and down to form a savage pack and spending less and less time in human form. Everyone is afraid of him and must do as he says. Now that he's getting older and his lack of legacy is starting to bother him, Connor has decided he'll have a child with Angel. She tries to explain that she has no choice. Even if she managed to run away, that would mean a gory end to her sister, John, Clara, and everyone she has ever cared about.
If I give him a son, he'll let me go.
Caden is still very distressed with all this, and she says he's too good for this place. Then he decides to tell her about his parents, and she has a sad story of her own. Her father had a drinking problem, and he attacked her mother in a full moon. When he woke up and found out she bit the dust, he just couldn't live anymore either. All wolf families have tragic stories like that, but so far, Caden has only seen that side of their condition. Only the burden, and not the gift. And then Angel finally gives him what he's been after all this time. She teaches him how to be a werewolf properly. The deep connection with nature, the heightened senses, all the things he's been too afraid to use are now within his reach. Then, of course, the lessons end with some extra quality time in the barn. Caden is a bit afraid of what might happen because of that night with Lisa, but Angel reminds him that this is different. She won't run from the wolf. She'll just wolf out herself. So, as you can imagine, what happens next is not pretty at all. That night, John has a get-together in the farmhouse. The guests are all that's left of the old lines. It seems like the more they say these guys are rare, the more of them keep showing up. One of them is Larson Willis. He's Carter's older brother and also Caden's second cousin. He doesn't seem so happy to see him though. In fact, no one is happy when Connor is unhappy because they know it means trouble. Mayor Robinson says he'll probably vanquish Caden and anyone who dares to help him. The cherry on the top of all of this is that the next full moon is tomorrow, and it's also Halloween night. Very promising. It seems like Caden and the Tollermans are the only ones who want to break the deal with Connor. Everyone else wants to play safe, meaning just let him have Angel. Then Caden reminds everyone he never made this deal, and if they think he's the one who brought about all this trouble, then he'll be the one to fix it. He storms out with a tip for them all. They should lock their doors tonight. John and Angel try to stop him, saying that it's too dangerous, but he doesn't listen to them. Walking right into Connor's den just as they planned an attack, the kid calls them hairy lunatics and says he knows the truth. Lucinda Willis is his mother, and she chose to leave this world instead of being with a murderous beast. He won't let the same thing happen to Angel. Connor is surprised to hear he's already a daddy, but that doesn't really warm his furry heart. He says Caden will have the same chance given to anyone, which is he can start to run now. The boy refuses to run from them. In full wolf mode, they start a battle. Angel can hear the fight and runs there to help Caden. The pack gets him trapped between them and a cliff. He decides to jump and the others back off in the hope he didn't make it. Down there, the kid is badly hurt and can't even tell if he's hallucinating or if this is really Wild Joe standing next to him. He tells Caden to get up and fight. After a few steps, he collapses into Angel's arms. In the morning, his new family is taking care of him. They say he must change right now or he won't survive those injuries. The wolf can take much more than the boy. The only problem is that he's too weak to get out of bed, let alone go outside and run. But we know there's another way to change, don't we? So John and Clara step outside for a moment while Angel works her magic. Soon, he's up and about, and then after a little sprint across the farm fields, he's as good as new, just like that. That's when Caden has an idea. John has a stinky stash of ovine detritus that happens to be highly explosive, so it's all hands on deck now. While they work on their plan, Connor is telling his men to get up and run too, so they can heal from last night. He's forgetting these are second-rate wolves who don't do that as easily. Caden tells Angel to pack her bags and meet him at a motel after it's all over. He doesn't want her anywhere near the mess. However, the mess comes to find her anyway. At the sound of her screams, Caden flies into the house, only to find it empty. They took everyone and left him an invitation to Connor's mating ceremony with Angel tonight. The Tollermans are now in a cage with Gail. We can tell it's a fancy event because Connor is actually wearing something above the waist. John tells him that the boy is dead, but he doesn't believe it. And then, poor Angel is brought to the stage, tied up in a crucifixion pose, like some kind of offering. She's been dosed and looks very groggy. The brute has the nerve to whisper in her ear that he's doing this for their kind. Two of Connor's obedient puppies are on the lookout near the party, but they're not even a challenge for Caden. He interrupts the ceremony right in time and then lures the whole pack towards the farm. While Angel starts to change too. She takes care of Deke in a few seconds and gets the cage open. Then we see John change for the first time. That helps him get home before the rest of them and get hold of his rifle. But he's not aiming at the wolves. While Caden distracts them from the roof, John shoots the explosives they had strategically placed. Connor is the only one still standing, and now he thinks it's time for some aggressive parenting. But his son is much more powerful than he could have imagined. When it looks like the younger wolf has won, Connor changes back to human to tell him something. He wants him to know that he never took Lucinda by force. They loved each other, but her father was going to punish her because she got pregnant, so he decided to take the fall. He lost the woman he loved and any chance to be loved again with such a reputation. That's what turned him into the monster he is now. That emotional conversation is cut short by Wild Joe's laughter. Banished for so many years, he just had to rub it in. In fact, he finishes Connor himself. But then he ends up saying way too much, and we find out this was all about Joe's revenge, including Caden's parents. The boy was innocent all this time. After this revelation, things don't end very well for Joe. In the morning, life looks very different. The barn is destroyed. The enemies are fertilizing the soybeans, and the happy young couple is ready to leave this horrible town. John gives Caden a family tree with all the major wolf lines so he can keep an eye on those names. And this is the end. This was a recap of the 2014 movie Wolves by TF1 International, starring Jason Momoa and Lucas Till. So which villain was the worst, Connor or Wild Joe? Let us know in the comments below with #CinemaRecap. Until next time.